Okay, so that video was starting to get long, so let's get into it. So essentially what I'm gonna have to do is work carefully, because like I said, I'm not trying to muck up my flashlight. And you're probably like, what are you doing today? So what I'm doing is I'll be putting a Novarich 4.3 inch barrel in there, because it's just the shit. I'm not gonna spend too much time promoting because they don't pay me for promotion. But I've done some tests with their 6.1 barrel and it was so immaculate that I was like, do you know what? I need the same thing, just less powerful, because that one was too powerful for indoor sights. It was shooting something like 460 in one of my guns, and I put in another gun and then it was shooting something like 375, and I was like, I turned my tank all the way down till the gun was struggling to shoot, you know, and the lowest I could get out of it was 346, and I was like, nah, that's just way too close to what the limit is, because do you know what I'm saying, if I change the BB weight, it won't align up with the HPA, not the HPA, the FPS chart. So I was just like, yeah, I need to go to their lowest barrel, because I want this site legal for indoors, like, you know what I'm saying? Cause the site that I play at, their site limit is 330. Often they want you to be at 310, but 330 is their limit. So that's my aim today. So I'm going to be putting that barrel in, and it's a nice little black one. And then I will also be changing the bucking inside this gun. As much as I like the bucking, I feel like the bucking in there is so immaculate. It's so accurate. Do you know what? Now I'm thinking about it. No, just change it. Like, yeah, it's great. The bucket, the 70-degree bucking is great. I would recommend it to anybody, but because I'm putting another rich barrel in there and I want the snug fit and the, you know what I'm saying, something that holds all the air in and gives me exactly what I need, I'm gonna put one of their buckings in. This is the hop-up bucking for the SSP1. I love it. I think it's great. I've got it in 2 of my guns currently and I have no complaints about it. So that's why that's going in. I do like the 70 from the 70-degree from Maple Leaf, but it can be problematic over time, and you probably like, what are you talking about? So essentially what I'm doing is I'm just going to take out this. It can be a bit fiddly. There we are. But yeah, why I say that is just because, let me move that tray so I give myself some space. But yeah, why I can say that is because they come with like a metal rim around them, and that's what is meant to like tensionally, should I say, hold your BB in every time your slide loads one in. The problem is, after about 6 months worth of use, that elastic band type metal band thing that goes, I'll show you anyway, that goes around, it becomes loose. So eventually you're loading a BB in, and if you move the gun too fast or hit the gun off something, the BB will fly out your barrel. So you'll take a shot and nothing will come out. It will load another BB in, but again, if you move the gun around, it will fall out the nozzle. And in a situation where, like say CQB, where you have to be quick movement and stuff, often you're taking the first shot, it's not hitting them, and then it's that lineup shot that's hitting them, and by then they've already shot you. So it's why I'm trying to remove that problem. Whereas with the Novarich one, it's probably as good, probably more thicker. One thing I will say, this is more durable than the one I've got in there. But with this one, because you don't need that rim, it's tight anyway. It kind of holds the BB there anyway. It's like you don't have that problem. So it's why I'm putting that one in. But I would recommend anyone who's just come in and they're looking for their first upgrade to a high Capa or a Glock or a 1911, go for that 70-degree bucking. I'm telling you, you will not regret it. You will definitely not regret it. And even once like that problem arises, if you guys want, I'll shoot a video that shows you how to fix that problem. But yeah, so essentially another thing I'm trying to fix today is, if you notice, if I charge my slide, it locks back, and that's because my hammer is clipping. The moment I remove my hammer, you see it removes itself. So I'm trying to fix that problem, because sometimes you're shooting. I played on Monday at Future Survival, and you're shooting, and then you get that lock back, and sometimes that's when you need your gun to cycle, and obviously it's locked back, so you're now having to manually sort that out. So that's the second thing, and then I think after that I'm done. Yeah, all I've got to do is test the new adapter, because I've basically built a new adapter for myself. I wanted something that looked pretty cool, so I changed the adapter. This is from Armor Works, if I'm correct. And then I've used AirTac MP5 adapter. So like you can see, I've got a Waldo. I'm not going to tell you how much percentage. I've got short stroking in there. but it's not quite doing what I want it to do. So I'm going to switch it out for something else that looks like this and see how I get on, because this one is roughly the same size but a bit longer than the short stroking I've got in there. So I'm hoping that will work straight away. If not, I'm gonna have to just cut it down and keep cutting it down. I've got the cow nozzle, like I said, and the Z, I think they're called ZCI housing. It's basically meant to be a speed housing. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it and let's stop all this chatting. So let me do this quick. Hopefully you guys can see everything I'm doing, because I need to be able to let you guys see over there, but also see what's going on in my lap. So we'll try. So I'm gonna remove that, because then I can move that upwards and remove that. So that's now relieved. So that's my spring and all of that nonsense right there. Before I sort out that, because that's where the short stroking is gonna happen, before I sort out all of that, I'm gonna go to my upper. I'm kind of happy with all of that, but you see straight away the BB fell out, and it's because of that tension thing I'm talking about, because there was obviously one loaded. The good thing is there weren't any gas connected, so there was no way of harming myself. Plus I've got goggles on right now. So what I tend to do is I'll degrease this. So I try to hold my nozzle backwards so that it doesn't move and I'm not damaging the nozzle spring. I've got a Waldo spring in there as well for the nozzle, but I don't want to take all of that down today because that's not necessary. All of that's functioning quite fine. But I try to like degrease. In theory, you should do this with a cloth and then absorbent alcohol or rubbing alcohol, whatever you guys call it. But essentially all I'm trying to do is remove unnecessary grease and dirt from my nozzle. I tend to often, when I've got more time, go around this with like, what's it, like a cotton bud or something less fluffy than a cotton bud, like a cloth that doesn't leave fibers. Because essentially I just want to take off all that dirty grease. So when I put new grease, it can function and it's not collecting gunk and all that nonsense. But because we're just doing a quick clean up today, because it's functioning, like there's nothing wrong. Like I'm only taking it down because, like I said, the part came for it. So it's now time to change the part that I've been waiting for, via why I'm even shooting this video, because I want to show you guys some of the processes we go through. Some people might not agree with my steps, but that's your business. It works for me and it works bloody good for me. Trust me, my clients are happy. So I would normally, like I said, go over this with like, say, a wet wipe or something like that has absorbent alcohol, rubbing alcohol. But like I said, this is functioning fine, so I'm not going to bother this too much. I'm just trying to remove dirty grease so that when I re-grease it, the new grease can do what it's meant to do. I also tend to do a nozzle check just to make sure that my nozzle is fine and I don't need to reset that spring. And if you notice, working lovely. Lovely. So I'm going to leave that one alone. So I'm just going to park her to the side for a second. Then we're going to focus on this quickly, because I'm going to come back to this bad boy, because that does need some work for sure. So essentially what I've got here is a TM style hop-up system, or half of a TM style hop-up system that has a wheel from a, what is the gun called? It's one of the high, it's a high cap I had on the channel. I think it's called a Black Viper, but I can't remember the name of the company basically, but it's called a Black Viper high capper. I've got half of TM, so you'll notice that it looks different. Like one half is one half and one half is another half. So one half is from Vosk and one half is from Tokyo Marui. And then I've got a wheel from the Black Viper. I think it's like a 4.3 high capper. Pretty good high capper, but I like the wheel because what the wheel does is, if you have a look, it shows you, let me use something to show you guys. It essentially shows you where the nozzle is, so you're not having to turn it and guess, take a shot, guess, pull it apart. You can literally set it and know, okay, this is high, this is low. I tend to set mine to get a good zero in. I tend to set mine here, but that depends on what barrel you've got and what hop-up setting and even what hop-up and bucking you're running. So don't follow me, because yours might not be straight by putting it there. I'm just showing you, if you follow what I've done, that will give you a zero, a full-blown zero. Somewhere about here is where you want your nozzle to be pointing. Yeah? Though mine's pointing there, you might be like, oh, what's happened? It's because I played with the gun for a whole 4, 5, 6 games or something like that night. So obviously it moves over time. I haven't got it glued together or anything like that, locked tight or anything like that in there. I just wanted to keep this how it is. I wanted to use it again in the future. So essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my inner barrel system and hop up and all of that from my outer barrel system. It's going to look like I'm doing a mad thing, but it's because I've made this so tight, so it's hard to fit in there. So it's snug, it's a snug fit essentially. So it might look like I'm doing a madness, but it's because I've made this so snug that it's difficult to get out. You coming out? Almost. Almost. So don't judge me, because I know some people are going to be like, why did you do it that hard? But I did that because it's so snug. Like, you literally get no movement. So you see some of the things that people face, like barrel movement and shit like that. I just did not get that with this gun at all because I made it so snug. If you're not as strong and not as patient as I am, probably don't do it though, because it will annoy the shit out of you at points. Like, say you're trying to rush on the field and sort something out. Yeah, this is going to piss you off. Some might be like, oh, you're knocking up your thing, but that's why I bought good parts. So I can afford, there we are. So I can afford to knock up the parts. This is half TM, half Vosk. And like I said, it's a Black Viper. And trust me, it's had no problems. Like, sometimes you have some wear and tear, like you can see some wear and tear, right? And sometimes you have some wear and tear where you have to knock things out of place and stuff. But for me, that's fine because that's not a movable part. Do you get what I'm saying? It's these bits that I need to keep secure. And if you notice, they're pristine. They've still got the CNC coating on them. So, do you know what I'm saying? Like, any of you soy boys that's like, oh, what about that? It's like, bitch, look at the thing. The thing's perfectly fine. Sometimes you should manhandle your guns as well. Like, some of you, man, move like your guns are your girlfriend, bro. And don't get me wrong, I can be one of those guys. Like, sometimes I don't even want people to use my guns because I've spent so much money on some of them. But, like, you can see I just manhandled my burner. Like, you don't, not every day treat your gun like it's your girlfriend, bro. So again, I'm just degreasing because you just don't want excessive grease on parts that aren't necessarily moving. Sometimes I do give parts like this a maintenance grease though, but a light one. It's like I'll rub it on there and then use like a cloth to go over it. So it has a shimmer, but it's not wet grease, if you get what I mean. And I do that because obviously they're metal. Some of them are metal, alloy, zinc, all these things. You don't want them to start rusting. So maintenance oil prevents rust, essentially. Even things like this, like, well, that's another story. We'll talk about that another day because that's not really important right now. So yeah, that's degreased. I'm gonna also put that to one side, yeah, which is essentially just my outer barrel, high Capa outer barrel. This is from a 5.1 Vosk high Capa. So again, do you see the kit gun has bare random parts on it? It's like bare, some of like the best gun parts I found for an affordable price. Because like I said, look, like Novrich lower. This is a 3D print base plate thing, magwell, flared magwell if you want to call it that. I've got flashlight on a damn pistol. I think the hammer's upgraded, but I might be wrong. And then yeah, like I said, the upper's from a Titan7. It has ZCM parts, cow. Do you get what I'm saying? It's literally a Terminator style weapon. It has parts from like so many different brands. But yeah, so that's degreased, and like I said, it's got a tracer unit attachment on it. That's how I like to run this gun, so that's why I've got one on there. Then now we're over to this unit, which is actually where the work is going to take place. We're going to degrease that a little, because again, you don't want all this excessive grease for no reason. Like, you want your bucking to be a bit greased, but not soaking. Like, do you get what I'm saying? Because then your other parts will more move because they're wet, if you get what I mean. Whereas if they're kind of like dry but greased, do you know what I'm saying? They won't move and they will still stay functionable, if you get what I mean, and not rust. Oh, so essentially what we're trying to do now is, there's two screws that hold your hop-up unit together. This bad boy here, this bad boy here. So I'm going to unscrew them and then take this unit apart, put the barrel, put the buck in, and then put it back together. A little part of me does slyly want to leave... the... Because look, like, I've got the 70-degree maple leaf bucking in there, if the camera will focus. I would like to leave that in there, but because of the BB retention issue, like I said, I think I'm just going to change it because it saves me it saves me the stress of having to sit there complaining about something continuously when I could just sort it and be done and over with it, if that makes sense. So that's the idea around that. Got bare screws and attachments that I need to make this happen, you know. You guys best put respect on us, people who do these videos for you, because boy, if I show you what my room looks like right now, you better love me forever. And my neighbors are probably going to be pissed off with me tonight, because every gun I build, I've got to at least take 5 to 6 shots just to make sure the work I've done actually is successful. So they're not going to like me tonight, but I said, God, do you know what? Where is my screwdriver? I can't find a little screwdriver. That's actually rude. Like, where is my tiny ass screwdriver? And do you know what? Something bigger would go into that, so I know what we're gonna do. These are the battles of trying to tech for yourself. And even that one is a bit chunky. Give me 2 seconds, people, because I know I've got a screwdriver that would fit that, or else I wouldn't have been able to put it together the first time. There we are. So this one works. It's just a bit tight. I think last time I tightened it, because obviously that wheel, yeah, it's like it's not quite biting it. That wheel was moving a bit too much. So give me 2 seconds. Probably in the edit, I'm gonna cut this bit, because I doubt you guys want to see me going through these battles. Or I might even just leave it, because to be fair, you can't want to do what we're doing and not go through these battles. I'm gonna be real with you. There we are. Come on, tell me you're gonna buy it. Yes, there we are. So essentially, what I'm trying to do is remove these 2 screws. So we're gonna remove that first one, the one on the right, and then we're gonna remove the one on the left. And then it basically splits into 2 halves. So it's like almost like a sandwich. Everything's sandwiched between those 2 halves. So what I tend to do is loosen them enough that in theory the body will separate itself, but try and hold on to them screws. Maybe I need to unscrew a bit more. Trying to do this while filming is slightly annoying. I see why some people don't do this, because if I was doing this without filming, oh my gosh, I'd have been done already. But I think I need to unscrew a little bit more. Yes, there we are. So that screw comes out. Always keep your screws local. So if you notice, I've got that screw there. And sometimes it's wise, depending on what gun system you have, it might be wise to leave the screws in the order that they came out of, because I know some hop-ups and some uppers, if you put the left in the right and the right in the left, it just won't work. So yeah, sometimes do that, but this one's the same, so I'm not really too fussed. Both screws are exactly identical. So what we're next gonna do is separate, like I said, and what you have is the right hand side, which I believe is the TM side, and then you've got your little turny thing that turns your actual wheel. Which I'm gonna put on the other side, and that's the left hand side of the hop. And that's obviously the right hand side of the hop right there. And then we've got your barrel and bucking. I would advise anybody, if you have a pistol, so I'm gonna degrease that. If you have a pistol, these are the 2 things, first things you should upgrade: your barrel and your bucking. Some people might be like, oh, then why is your barrel still copper? I did that because it's a great length, and though this one looks like a standard barrel, it's actually not. It's a tight bore. It's just not the most expensive tight bore. And I didn't buy the most expensive tight bore because with this bucking, the 2 work hand in hand. So it was like, why? I don't need more accuracy. The fucking thing shoots amazingly straight. Why do more to it, kind of thing? And then that pin ring thing I was talking about is this. It becomes loose over time. So that's what stops the retention. I could probably even show you guys now quickly. So when it goes in there, what should happen is it should hold it. If you notice, my one just slid out, and it's because it's probably not as tight as it should be. So do you see it's still not as tight as it should be? me see if I can quick fix it. Don't be like me and put dirty BBs down your barrel, but yeah. So do you see it's still not fixing it? So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold this bucking for backup guns, because then at least I know what the solution is though, you know. All I have to do is really bend this in, but I don't want to do too much damage to the bucking where it's still on the gun, and I'm taking this bucking off anyway. So we won't change too much. Why did that not come out? Yeah, that did not come out. That's not a good sign. Give me 1 sec, peeps. Because you see, sometimes you guys see the problems you run into. I've got BB stuck in my barrel. So I'm going to clear that. And that has now come out. So that shows me don't use dirty BBs. I'm going to have to use a fresh pot of BBs to do this test. So give me 2 secs. Use some clean ass BBs. So don't be like me and use dirty BBs. You just have problems. And likely I'm going to clean this barrel, this new barrel, while we're on this vid, so you guys see how that works quickly. So yeah, that's rude. So I think this barrel does need a cleaning. I'm glad I'm not using this one anymore. Okay, now it's clearing it. Okay. Yeah, because it's a tight bore barrel, it looks like, because the barrel is not clean, which is interesting because it looks kind of clean to me. Okay, that's a lie. The barrel is not clean. I don't know if you guys will be able to see it, but there's a few little clumsy bits inside my barrel, and that's why that's happening. And I think it's because I was using dirty BBs off the floor before, so don't be like me. But we're getting rid of this barrel anyway. Plus, I'll probably show you how to clean it in another video anyway. But so essentially what we're going to do is just pop that off. You could take the ring off. Often I just leave it, because if it's on there, it's very hard for you to lose it. So yeah, I'm going to pop that to one side, because I do want to transfer that into one of the other weapons so that I can get the best out of that gun. Then I'm going to degrease this barrel quick. You know what I'm saying? And in theory, I should clean this barrel, but I'll do this in another video, because I probably will use this barrel on something else. So yeah, I'll do that in another video, because it wouldn't make sense doing it now. Do you get it? It's like we're not shooting that kind of thing right now. So this is where this bad boy comes out. We're going to get another rich barrel. And remember, I've got my hop and stuff in parts. What I would tend to do as well is it might be wiser to degrease all your hop up parts as well, because it's the same thing. It's like if they're too oily for no reason, you're just going to get movement where you don't need movement. So what I do is I degrease, and then I'll just drop maintenance oil, rub maintenance oil in places that I think I need it. Or say I want my bucking a little bit more moist, I might put some around the bucking, but you don't really want oil around your wheel and your wheel space, because it will, every time you shoot the gun, it will cause your wheel space to move, which means that even if you zero in your gun, you're going to find you're going to have to zero in your gun every single week, because you have put oil in these places that oil should not necessarily be. So if people are scared of rusting, I would just say take your guns down every so often and rub maintenance oil over the parts. With it, like soak a cloth in maintenance oil, for example, and then just lightly rub the parts down, but then dry them off, because then what you have is residue of maintenance oil. And this is what I've got. It's why some of them are so oily still. Maintenance oil, just to stop the parts rusting. I'm going to take the metal bit, do the same thing. I'm going to degrease that bad boy as well, because this does a lot. This is actually what adds the tension to your bucking. So you do want that well looked after, and probably not too greasy either. But it's the same thing, because it's a metal bit. It's like you do kind of want it working correctly. Do you get what I'm saying? And not rusted. And then the other side of the hop, where the wheel is, in theory, I'm going to take my wheel out as well, because I believe behind the wheel is probably greasy. So I'm going to degrease. And essentially what I'm doing is, that's where the bucking sits. That's where the bucking sits, along this little bit right here. That's why there's that little chamber. And then this is where your barrel would be sitting. So again, these are not areas that necessarily need grease. Maybe the bucking, because I want the bucking to remain kind of not soaked in oil, but a little moist, like just a little. You know when like something has a little glaze of oil, but it's not soaking wet in oil. That's kind of how you want your bucking, just a little glaze of oil, because it stops the bucking ripping. Like in extreme conditions, cold, extremely cold or extremely hot, it stops it ripping. That's what bare people won't tell you. You see, when I used to run AEGs all the time, I learned this lesson. I put brand new buckings in and left them bone dry, or even just that's the little tiny bit of oil. And after 200-300 shots, the bucking is ripped to shreds, and the gun's shooting funny. And that's why, it's because the bucking's been ripped to shreds during that process, because the bucking can't keep up with the extreme temperature. So that O-ring I don't want to lose, because that goes on my hop ring as well. It acts like a little spacer when I put on my hop ring, just so that the body ain't slamming down on it. So now that that's kind of degreased, you know what I'm saying, I'm gonna put that to one side. I've got my wheel in the middle, and then I've got my O-ring. Make 2 sets, because these gloves are moving too much. If anyone wants to recommend me some tight ass gloves that work for these kind of videos, bring a brother in. So we're gonna drill for my barrel again. Put that cloth to one side. We don't need that at the moment. We're gonna drill for my Novrich barrel. Novrich are kind of good with the way they send their things and stuff like that. So I'm not really gonna overly do too much analysis, because the last barrel came out pretty good. I'm looking down the barrel right now. It looks clean. So there's not even no need to clean it. So I'll do that in another video. If you guys want me to do a video where I'm cleaning barrels, say the word. And what I will do is post a video called Cleaning Barrels. But it looks sweet, so I'm gonna just leave it, to be fair. And that is a Novrich SSP5 43. I know so much people gonna be like, why the hell did you do that? But I know why I did it. And you'll know if you ever see me on a field why I did it. So we're gonna put that to one side. We're gonna get our other part, which is the bucking from the SSP1. Again, I know so much soy boys are gonna be like, why did you do it? But mind your own business, bruv. Yeah, I'm saying this video is for my real subscribers who understand that sometimes you're on a budget, but you want the greatest performance on a budget. So you have to transform a build the pistol. Do you get what I'm saying? Especially if you play hardcore CQB, where you run into speed softers and heavy skirmish players. Like, trust me, you have to know what you're on. The people I run into, like, if you don't have a good reliable gun, you're pissed. You're gonna spend the whole night crying about losing. Like, do you get what I'm saying? And me, I like to go airsoft and play optimally. So essentially what you're trying to do is, inside the bucking, if you notice, there's like a little line, if you can see it right there. On your barrel, you also have a little line at the top there. Can you see that? Right there at the top. What you're trying to do is line these two up. Normally I'll dash a little grease around this, but I'm not gonna lie, this bucking looks fairly new. If it's normally sat in the warehouse, you'd see like a little white powdery stuff around it. That's when I normally grease the barrel just a little bit. Not the barrel, the bucking. But this one looks nice, so I'm not even going to do that. Plus, the transformer kit gun that I've got, it gets really greasy anyway. I add so much grease to the slide, so this is likely to end up with some grease on it long term anyway. So essentially what you're trying to do is line that up and slide it on like I've done. Just trying to make sure, one sec, make sure that's on perfectly. No movement, and then you just want to spin that around, make sure there's no movement. Cool. So you end up with something that looks like this. Yeah? Then this is where your hop-up comes in. What I try to do is I try to put my wheel in first on, what is this, the left-hand side? Yeah, the left-hand side. I try to put my wheel on. And in theory, I should put that underneath the wheel, because then the wheel isn't pressed up. So you see this right here? This is the O-ring. A lot of companies don't do this. So if your one don't have one, grab one of these. It's a tiny ass O-ring, yeah? If I can get it onto the tool. Lovely. Tiny ass O-ring. If you can dash that over this thing here, this thing right here, boom. What that will do is it will see your O-ring stopping too much rubbing when your whole system is back together. Because you have to remember that it needs the ability to do that. It needs to be able to move. So that's what that's for. Bare companies don't do that. If you don't have one, seek it out. That's a life. I'm never going to say too much. Like, I'm trying to give away too much of my tricks, bro. But yeah, that will essentially allow your hop-up changing in a high Capa to just... It's like you won't be crying so much. Because I've had times where it's like, it's a nightmare trying to change it in some of the guns that I've had in the past. And then what I'm trying to do is line that up so that line my bucking up, and I'll take it off quickly and show you. So on the the bucking, you have that line right there, right? You're trying to line that up with that line in there. So that line there with that line there. You guys best love me, you know. Filming and doing this is so difficult. Yeah, I'm saying. So I'm trying to line that up so it seats snug. Not quite there yet. Telling you, doing this while filming. Oh my gosh. Boom. So I believe I've done it now. Okay, boom. So do you see? That's inside there. Now, a lot of people won't agree with me with the way I do this, because some people are like, oh, I would do that before I do that, but there's a reason. Let me land. I normally line that up first because this makes this part much more easier. This is the thing that sits on your wheel. That's going to allow your wheel to turn every time you move it and add more and less tension on your bucking, yeah? So what I tend to do is, because it goes this way upwards, I tend to line that up like I'm saying, pick that up, turn it over, make sure I check so you can see that's seated where it's meant to be seated, right? Cool. I tend to grab my wheel and turn it to like a low or a high setting. It depends on what kind of wheel you have. It's why I switched out my wheel, because it just gives me a lot more playability. Whereas some of the wheels are so tiny, like the turnability is like half of this or quarter of this. This is why I like this wheel, because it starts there and it ends literally on the opposite side. It's quite good. So what I do is I put that over the top of this. But essentially what I'm trying to do is that little rib on the metal thing, I'm trying to make sure it lines into this wheel somewhere. So you see that little cutout in the wheel? I'm trying to make sure it ends up in one of those parts. Sometimes this can be a bit finicky, but if you notice, I've just got it in. So right now, what you should see is it should sit flush, like how that's sitting flush. And if you notice, when I turn the wheel, when I turn the wheel, it's adding and removing tension up there. Like you can see the movement. So I'm going to turn that all the way back down because I'm not trying to damage up my things. And then I'm going to line that back up like that. So what you want to essentially see is that metal thing inside this wheel cut out so you can turn it back and forth so it's doing its job. And it's sitting flush with this back plate line right here. So mine's not quite there, but now it is. Yeah? Maybe I have to turn it back like that. And you know, I should just turn it to a low setting, make my life easier. Turn it to a low setting, and you see, now it will seat there, no problem. Yeah? Then essentially what I'm going to do is take my other half, which is the right-hand side, and chuck all of that back on while not trying to make none of it move. Because if anything moves, you got to start this process again. So if you notice, I hope nothing's moved. I'm going to test that in a second. It's now sitting flush with that back wall, like I'm saying. And if you see my wheel, I can turn this knob. And if you notice it's tensioning up there, I can see it's kind of sat down a little bit. And then if I turn it back up, I can see, do you see it's gone flush with the top again? Yeah? So I can see my wheel is functioning. I like my wheel to run, like I said, back here somewhere. So I tend to turn it that way. And then I start to add the screws. Some people might say add the screws and then turn it, but it's literally up to you. It depends how confident of a tech you are. Like I said, I've done so much of these pistols and been through hell and back with these pistols, which is why I have my way how I do things, if you want to call it that. But do what you're comfortable with. is what I would say. Just sitting there, mate. So I'm essentially just putting the screws back in their holes. For some reason, they don't want to seat very well for me today, so you will probably have to be patient with yours as well. Now they're seated, I'm just going to literally screw them back in. I do have a shaky hand, so don't judge me, guys. Hopefully you guys have more stable hands than me. I've got like a natural shake. It runs in the family. Don't judge us. So screw that back in. Some people have different ideas about how tight things should be. I tighten until when I'm turning, I feel my screwdriver lift out of the little slots that it sits in. Because for me, that's when something is technically as tight as it should kind of be. But because I've used two parts that are not from each other, if you notice, there's a slight gap. So I'm going to tighten that down a bit more, which is probably why when I was taking it apart earlier, it probably was so hard to take apart, because obviously I had to do that before because it's two. I've essentially used two parts that shouldn't be together, but they work really well together. So it's why I've just left it. But I wouldn't do it if you was me, if I was you, just because say you're on a field and you don't know the things I know how to fix the gun, you might stress yourself out if it gives you problems. Because like I said, if they don't seat together, because like I said, like if you look closely, you can see they're not the same part. Like one's a certain black, one's another black. Do you get what I'm saying? But I did that on purpose because I wanted a hop up that worked. Oh, I think it's moved. Oh, it has moved. Give me 2 seconds. You don't want it to look like that, because that isn't going to function correct. Oh, annoying. Gonna need a new glove now. I cut my glove open. But yeah, it looks like my hop up has moved. So if you have a look at that, you don't want it to look like that squashed. Nah. I think it's when I was pressing on the barrel. So give me 1 sec. And you see, even us, we make mistakes. So it's why I said, when building something like this, you want to check as you're going along. And I might even turn the hop back off, relieve all that tension. See if I could rock it back into place without taking the whole unit off. Because you don't want it to look squashed like that. You want it to seat. It's meant to seat a certain way. But I think it's gone a bit too far back. Okay, boom. In theory, I think I might have to take it back down, you know. Yeah, do you know what? Don't be like me and rush. But I'm going to take it back down because the way I like this gun, I want it to work optimally. So there's no point putting it up if I'm unsure if something's seating correct. I think it was my fault. I leant on the barrel as I was extra tightening it. So that's what obviously made it move a bit. And it's probably good you guys are seeing this, because I'm telling you, like, don't open your guns and take them if you really don't have the patience for when things go wrong. Because like you can see right now, I'm having to take things back apart just to make sure that they're perfect. And that's part of the game. Like, if you don't have that patience, just don't do it. Give it to a tech who will take their time and do it correct. I need to actually change this glove though, because it's ripped. No, my hop doesn't want to separate itself. What's going on here? This is probably another reason why you shouldn't do what I've done, because my hop doesn't feel like it wants to. There we are, it's separated now. But yeah, because you're basically doing something that no company's done before. Give me 2 seconds. Let me change this glove because it's annoying me. Boom. So, not too bad. We're 39 minutes into this thing. Not too bad. Like I said, you need patience because look, I'm not even... Well, I'm kind of halfway, because the other thing is quite easy to do. It's just time consuming because you have to get perfect. So you're going to just check your bucking and your barrel's fine. And I'm also going to redo my setting just to make sure it's set correct. So line and line again. And that's so interesting. Oh no, it's just white bits. I thought it was damaging the barrel already. But it's because it's rubber. Okay, so like you can see, that's lined up. line with line. Yeah. And you'll see if it's not seating well, because it will look like oval shaped as opposed to circle, like you're seeing. Then I'm gonna reset all of this, make sure this is correct. So where's my O-ring? It's around there, lovely. So I'm just gonna chuck that straight on so I don't lose that O-ring. Boom, that's on. So that's my wheel. And like I said to you guys, I normally do this bit first. That's just for my own comfort's sake. It's literally up to you guys the way you want to do it. But I tried to line up this bit first. Boom, you're sat well. Then I'll chuck this bit on and try and line this one up. And what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to leave the hop wheel off, because I think that might have been the problem here. It was too tight. So it kind of bent the bucking as I tightened it. So you just want to give that a check again, make sure that's lined up. Yeah, is it lined up? So you're going to look something like that, yeah? I'm going to chuck the other side on. Chuck that bit over it. I wish my hands weren't so shaky. And like you can see, that's on and that's in where I want it to be. It looks like there's a little gap though, but it's seating lovely. I don't know if you guys can see that. It looks like there's a slight little gap. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. I'm gonna have to check it once the gun's up. Like, is there a difference in performance or anything? I know I built one of these essentially with the 6.1 barrel from Novritsch, like I said. And that did so well that, like I said, like, this is why I'm willing to put this up, even though I can see little things like that. Because some would be like, oh, that means that the bucking ain't meant to be in there. And it's like, well, again, like I said in a video, I'm doing something that's never technically been done in this format. So I expect to find slight differences like that. But I never found any issues with... Oh, where is the gun? I've got it, you know. I've got it over there. So at some point, maybe I'll show you before this video is over. But I've got the 6.1 barrel. And you'll see, like, it's not perfect. It doesn't look perfect when it's in there. But the thing shoots perfectly fine. The hop on it works perfectly fine as well. It's just that it's too powerful where the barrel's so long. Okay, yeah, we're getting where we need to be. I just need you tighter. But yeah, which is why I'm doing this build, because I need the thing to be bloody sight legal, or else I basically built something I can't play with, which is kind of cool for you guys, but pointless for me, because then I've got a gun that I could only really use when I take to the range, which, don't get me wrong, if you're a person that goes to the range every week, then cool, that's a good idea, but I work in it, so there's some weeks that I'm just way too busy to be at the range. Like, do you get what I'm saying? I would love to be at the range, but I'm just way too busy to be there every single week, like religiously. Okay, it's me. It looks like that's meant to have space to allow the wheel. Haha, that's so interesting. Now I've done it too tight, the wheel won't turn. And you know what, I'll loosen the back bit. Turn my wheel where I want it. Ah, it's because it's the front bit that's tight. Okay, mad. So I'm going to relieve the front bit. Turn my wheel, which is mad, you know, because that turns straight away. Secure that back. I want my wheel somewhere back here. I'm telling you, any bucking I normally put on this gun and use this system and barrel, that's how every gun essentially runs. So some might be like, oh, why do you run it religiously that way? It's because it just works. Like, you see, because I've spent so much time on high cappers and different value high cappers as well, it really taught me, like, whether you have £120 or £140 budget for something like a Vosk, or you have something more expensive like a £200-300 budget for something like a TM, Or yeah, there's so much you can get. Do you know what I'm trying to say? They've got Humerexes and all these things. No matter your budget, you can get a good high capper. You just need to know what to do, like on what parts to buy. So this is essentially back together the way I want it, guys. So my wheel does turn backwards and forwards, like you're seeing right there. Yeah. And like, just, I know some people are gonna be like, oh, it didn't turn, you can't see it. That's the triangle thing right there. So I'm just turning the triangle thing back and forth. Yeah. And like I said, I tend to run it there. So I'm going to leave it roughly about there. And just tighten. Without pushing my barrel. So that thing happens again. And your journey will be easier than mine. Because obviously I'm using parts that shouldn't be with each other. If you're using the identical parts from that brand, you'll be perfectly fine, right? And you know what I am gonna do? Give me 2 seconds, guys. Is turn on my air conditioning because for some reason my room is so hot. Like it's literally so hot. But boom, let's get back into it. And y'all best love me forever because this video is nearly an hour. It's 45 minutes. Okay, boom. So that's sat where it's meant to. That's moving where I want it to move. I've sat my wheel exactly where I want it to. If I was you, don't even set your wheel too early. I'd put the gun back together, shoot, see how it's operating, and then set your wheel, and then you can leave the gun as it is. So that's now done. We're gonna put that to one side, and I'm gonna come back to all these parts I put to one side because currently we've got 3 parts put to one side. And don't think they're just there for no reason. Like there's actually reason for everything. Yeah, essentially reason for everything. Then the last bit I actually really want to work on with this gun is this. It's doing that hammer catch thing, right? So I'm gonna clean up this guide rod thing, or the end for the guide rod. It's called a plunger. It's actually called a plunger. Give it a quick clean up. Again, I clamped this gun weeks back and put that to one side. So I know it's not too bad. The Wildo spring, I tend to give that a little degrease because they're good little springs. You want to look after them. Big up Wildo. What you guys should do is make more. And when we buy one, send 3 in the packet. I don't even mind paying a bit more, but I would have loved to buy 3 of these as opposed to 1, but it came in a 1 pack. So little game, free game for Wildo for next time. I'd love 3, 4 of them. Like, you guys do this with the small nozzle springs, but do it with the big springs, bro. I would be happy to pay a certain price to get all 3 percentages of those big springs. So Wildo, hopefully you see this video, and if he doesn't, somebody repost Wildo this video. I'm gonna just degrease because again, these are short stroke kits, but like you see, worn and torn. Worn and torn. So again, these are parts I'm going to put to one side because they might make it onto other weapons. Or if I do the check on them and see that they're just not worthy enough anymore, I'll just get rid of them because I've got hundreds of shots out of these parts here. Some of them might be good though because the blue one looks alright. Yeah, I'm saying the blue one looks pretty good to be fair. So yeah, we'll see. I'll put them to one side. I'll go through them. These are things that often make it onto other builds. I love a short stroke. I'm not going to lie to you. I do not care about losing the lock back. Especially if the gun's on a kit. Yeah. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to have to pull up that window shortly as well. Save any midnight echo car. Better shooting I'm going to be doing. You have to look after your neighbours, people. Stop giving airsofters bad, what's it called? A bad name. Because there's so much people who I know who they hate living next to airsofters. So, in theory, also don't be like me. Because it's gone 10 and I am going to shoot. But the good thing is I've got air, like, what do you want to call them? Air absorbers. Because I do music, I've got air absorbers all around the room. So as long as, like, my echoey bathroom is locked and my window is locked, I know I'm not affecting the people outside, I tend to be all right. You know what I'm saying? And plus, like I said, I just really want, out of each weapon, maybe about 10 to 20 shots, maybe call it a mag's worth of shots, just to make sure they're operational, basically, and the work I've done is actually done, if you get what I mean. 'Cause I need to what do you want to say? Like, I need to bring these guns to the range to zero them in anyway. But, you know, you just want like, I can't go to sleep that night knowing that I haven't checked the guns, basically. I'd kind of be like, how do you know the work that you done is done? So I'm degreasing my guide rod for the spring lower. And this is where the work is going right now. Earlier, if you remember, I showed you a part. Hopefully I haven't lost it. There we are. This part, which I'm basically gonna use as a short stroke. I currently think it's a bit too long. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna test it. And essentially what I'm trying to do is take this bit and chuck it into the upper with the spring on it and see if the gun will allow me to slide it back into place and put the ring through it. But I know some people are gonna be like, I don't get what you're talking about. That's all gibberish to me. So I'm just gonna show you. I'm literally just gonna show you. So like you can see, I put that around my guide rod. I'm gonna grab back my spring. I'm gonna grab back my plunger. And essentially what I'm trying to do, and I'm gonna need my outer barrel. Or a outer, well, I've got my outer barrel, right? Yeah, I did the work, yeah. So I've got my outer barrel. I'm gonna take my outer barrel and I'm gonna chuck my inner barrel back in it, because now I've done the work, so these can seat right back together. But like I said to you earlier, it is normally a tight fit, so yeah, don't judge me for how this process looks, but it works for me. Like, the gun works so well. There we are, and it's sat perfectly flush. Look at that, flush. That's why I do it that way, because you just get no movement. It's almost like having a stagnant barrel. Like, you see like how Novrich do the stagnant barrel? It's like having that, like, but on a budget. But you have to do what you have to do, man. Like I said, I'm not sponsored yet, so hopefully y'all can get me some sponsorship. So yeah. But yeah, so that's done. That's back together. What we're trying to do, I'm still going to take these parts back off, just so I can re-grease certain bits, but I'm just doing this to just double check that the short stroke actually works. What works the way I want it to. So I'm going to take my plunger and all of that stuff, pull that down, work my finger muscles, and I'm going to pop that back in there. So the first red flag you're trying to look for is, you see, if this won't go back into your system, red flag, it means your short stroke is way too much. So what you essentially want to do is cut down some of this, or use less rings. If you're using these rings, you want to use less of them, because if it doesn't even go into your system right here, yeah, it just means that it's way too much. Just take one off, take two off until it seats in there. So first test passed. Then the second test is this. We're trying to take the lower and the upper, and we're trying to put them back together. And what you're trying to do is see if it will go back together and seat flush like this. So like you can see, the end of my barrel, let me use a tool to show you. The end of my upper barrel, or the upper, if you want to call it that, seats with the back upper of my lower. That's the next best thing. And then the last thing, which will make you know that this works for you, which I don't think it is going to work for me, is you want to pull this system right here backwards, yeah? And essentially what you're trying to do is get this little cutout right here. Hopefully the camera can see it. This little cutout right here in the upper, you want it in line with this little chamber right here. Now, if you can see, that cutout is right here and the chamber is right here. So this isn't working for me. And it's so annoying because that's so perfect. That stops the hammer from even, like, if you have a look where the hammer is, it's like the hammer is here and the thing in the slide that catches is right there. So it's like, if that would have worked, that would have been so perfect, but it doesn't. So we have to go back to the drawing board just slightly. And this is why I said you have to be patient. Like, so I don't understand why everybody now is a tech in airsoft, because if you don't have patience, you're just going to break the person's gun and break your own gun if it's your gun you're teching. So I'm going to leave that. And then I'm going to go back over here to this part right here. And this is the bit we're trying to work on. Because essentially what that's showing me is the short stroke is a bit too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull off the base rings that come on this plunger, because as much as they're nice to have, again, they're things I don't really need. So I'm going to clean them off as well. And again, these are things that can go in to my parts bag for another build. I still feel like that's going to be too much, because that was only maybe like an inch and a half, yeah, like an inch. So I'm going to need a bit more than that. Don't be like me and cut on your leg. Use a proper table, but I've been doing this so long that, trust me, I know what I'm doing. So I do like a pilot slice. And again, I'm guessing more time you should measure. And you know what, let me actually use the table. More time you should measure, because you'll save yourself having to do this multiple times. As you see on the table, we went through it straight away. And then what you want to do is just cut a little part of this. If you're a child, let an adult do this, because these are sharp tools. And if you notice, I've taken off an inch. Again, I'm going to put that to one side, because again, that's something that could be for another build. I'm going to chuck this back on here. I'm going to grab all of the Waldo spring and the plunger. And then we're going to try this again. So the first test, like I said, is you want to see if it will go onto hair. I know it will definitely go onto hair, because it went on hair with a longer version of it. So I know that that test should pass anyway, as long as it's lined up. Because right now I didn't line it up correct. So now it's lined up. So that first test, I know it was going to pass that one anyway, because it passed it with a slightly longer one anyway. This test, it should pass also, because it passed it with a longer one, and this is a shorter one. The game changer one would be right here. So if you see, it's done it straight away. Yeah, it's gone, that triangle bit or the circular bit has lined up with that bit right there, with this chamber right here. My problem is though, I feel like my hammer is caught. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my hands a little bit in front and release the hammer. And you see, it flies back. The problem is, that means that I still have the problem. The hammer's catching. And it's catching by maybe about 2-3 inches. So what we're going to do is go back to the drawing board again and give ourselves some more, which, this is what I said, is such a finicky process that you have to be patient. Because I have to take my plunger, my spring and all of that, chuck that to one side again. Genuinely have to be patient with this, trust me. And then put my upper, my barrel and all of that. And I think what I'm going to do is, because it's like an inch, it's like I need half of this. Oh, do you know what? Let me try something. Where I took off an inch off that. Yeah, do you know what? Let me take off an inch off this, because I think I saw it's not that much that it's catching by. But what I don't want to do is make it also so tight that it's hard to get the barrel, the upper in, if you get what I mean, because you have to essentially use that little small tool and run that through the barrel. So you actually want to make sure that the barrel works, if you get what I mean, or the part works, if that makes sense. Yeah, let me take off a little inch off it, because then hopefully this should work straight away. Oh, do you know what? I've got an idea. Rather than cut that, I've got these little O-rings. I'm going to chuck one of these on there, yeah? And see how I get on. So I'm going to chuck one of those on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a base plate, which might give me a problem because it makes it firm, which means that it won't bend too much when I'm trying to put it back on, which might be problematic, but I feel like we only know until we test it. So chuck that back on. And I love the fact that it didn't work straight away, because I want you guys to actually see, like, we go through hell sometimes to get these guns perfect, like I'm telling you. So we're going to chuck that back in. So I know, like I said, first test worked. We know the second one's going to work because the longer one worked. It's just this one. So look, perfect. We've got it. If you look right here, I've managed to get this little oval cutout to line up with this little chamber here. So now we've got it. Another thing you want to test, and this is normally the fourth and final test, is you want to check your hammer. And if you have a look, hopefully you guys can see what I'm seeing. You want to make sure that the back of your hammer isn't, how do you want to explain it, behind this silver thing here. So you don't want this part of your hammer to be back here. You want that part of your hammer to be exactly where it is. You know what I'm saying? You don't want it, that part of your hammer right here, in here. And I'll put it a bit closer so you guys can see. You don't want this bit of your hammer to be here. And this is me literally pulling it back as much as I can pull it back. You don't want that back bit to be over that side. You want it to be behind right here, somewhere along here. Yeah? Because then what that will do is stop what I was happening earlier where my hammer locks onto my top slide. So yeah, it looks like we fixed that problem. I'm gonna just take these bits down quickly again, because obviously I'm gonna want to grease certain bits up that weren't greased from before. So, and you know what, I should be able to get away with it. So what I'm gonna do is take some thin silicone oil, if you have any, guys. Take some thin silicone oil, and I'm gonna chuck that in between these little aspects right here, because what I'm trying to do is make sure things like my nozzle can maneuver like they were maneuvering before I degreased them. In theory, I should have done this while the gun was taken down, but it's calm, man. I'm trying to save time now. Another thing you then want to do is grease certain areas, like, depends what kind of upper you have in it, but you want to grease along here, along here, along here, along here, along here, along here, just a real bit, you know. And then over this section right here, if you've got a high Capa like me, this section is important because most people leave this ungreased, and there's times where all of this will be greased, your rails will be greased, but the gun will be still failing to cycle, and it's because this little section has gunk and nonsense on there. So I tend to grease the whole thing, because if the whole thing's greased, there shouldn't be no issue, especially if you've got a 30 little spring like the Waldo spring. So I'm gonna literally just grab this. Some people won't agree with me, this is gun silicone oil, but that's your business, it works for me. So I'm gonna rub it along here. I'm gonna do this, run a little bit along here. I tend to normally have like a toothbrush tool, just so that I don't have raw grease sitting. It's like I've brushed it on there, but it's not that deep. I'm gonna charge the upper quite a few times before I put the gun back together, so it should be all right. So I'm gonna chuck that there for one side. So that's my upper. That's the work we wanted to do to the upper today. That's the upper done. Yeah. Then we're gonna go to my lower, because I didn't touch this earlier. I'm not gonna charge. I'm gonna actually make sure the gun's on safety as well, because you don't want to click that trigger and that goes flying, because I've done that a few times and the hammer's broke where it's not hitting anything and it just carries on flying forward, so it snaps halfway in the middle. So I tend to turn my safety on, so there's no way for me to accidentally click the trigger and let that loose. And we're gonna degrease bits like this. In theory, I should have used this cloth, because this cloth is the one I'm trying to wash and reset for the next couple builds. So we're trying to degrease anything that is normally moving or would host oil, or anything that you can see that's just gunky at the moment. You don't want gunk, unnecessary gunk in your gun. Tend to rub down close to where that trigger rail is, because again, down there gets gunky where it's moving every time your trigger moves, and where it has little cutouts, sometimes dust and all sorts of rubbish can get down there. Do along the rail. Another place that people miss is this little cutout right here. Important to clean. And that cutout at the back right here, on both sides, not just one side. Degrease them, because we often forget that they also get gunky around the hammer. Beaver tail hammer, always wise to clean. I don't know if you can see mine, like it has bare like dust. These are bits, because they're moving parts, they tend to build up things like that, especially if they're oily. So you do want to clean them. I tend to, like I said, when I've got more time and I'm not rushing like I'm rushing now, I'll go over all of this with like a cotton bud or a microfiber cloth, just to make sure no dust or anything's left in there. But this cloth isn't a bad cloth. If you notice, it's taking off the majority of the things I'm trying to take off. So grease, degrease. And then you know what? Another little bit I want to degrease is between my safety, because we often forget about that. And it gets gunky as well. So I'm just going to use that and just kind of rub out in there. Clear out some of that dusty dust. I want to re-grease that, but you don't want to just keep adding grease to dusty grease. Normally you should do this with some kind of rubbing alcohol, but like I said, this gun, I'm not quite finished with the mod. I want to just make sure this modification is done. Everything I just put in, like the Novich barrel, works perfectly fine with my hop up. This short stroke now removes that hammer lockback thing. I want all these things solved, and only then will I fully degrease the gun and fully re-grease the gun, like proper rubbing alcohol and everything. Right now I'm just more trying to, just like a quick in between games maintenance, if you get what I'm saying. Because you want to just make sure that though you've done the work, your gun is in a functionable place to entertain the new work you've done to it. Because I know guys who, they'll open the gun, they'll not degrease the gun or nothing. They won't even re-grease the gun, you know. I even just give it a chance to allow it to perform a bit better. They'll just chuck the upgrade parts in it, put it back together, and then they wonder why 3 months in their gun is broken. Care for your tools, they'll care for you. Again, you don't have to use this kind of oil. There's other oil you can use, but I found that this one tends to work pretty well for me. So I tend to oil like the hammer, all these little moving areas, bits that the slide sits on, because then I should have less slide failures, because all the bits that the slide is touching is greasy, right? It should slide, it should do its job. So yeah, but there's other oils you can use. You don't have to use this one, because what I tend to do is, like, I've got a pack of oils that they all do different things. But like I said, where this is a quick video, I'm just showing the average user, like, you don't really need to spend bare money. Like, if you use this in the right areas of the gun, it will work. So again, I'm just adding back grease to the areas that I removed the grease from, but this is obviously fresh grease this time round. Boom. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my upper and my lower, and I'm going to put them back together. I'm going to have to degrease the upper a little bit, boy. Bare grease. But now you see why I'm in gloves. And then we're going to slide those bad boys back together. Pull that back. And that's what we want. But I know it's going to go together anyway, because we already did the test and we saw that that worked. So I'm not doubtful of that, if you get what I mean. Almost had an idea. You might be like, why did he stop? I had an idea. I was like, do I put back the Titan? Because the Titan7 has like an end bit that goes on the gun. And I'm like, maybe I could put that on and it would make the kit look a bit cooler, where there's like, the gun's hanging out a little bit and then it's the tracer. But I was like, nah, man, I want the gun to seat a certain way. Because if the gun seats a certain way, it's normally because the tracers, you'll see anyway when I put it back together. If you're like me, where you have that fault with the 3D printing, you'll still be able to use the kit. So essentially next, we're going to pull that back to the place that we saw earlier. And we're going to chuck this bar right back in. Because this is what holds everything together. Might have a bit of a pull to get there, just because it's so tight. I've got it so tight, this one. But now that's pulled, you see that slides in nicely. I'm going to release that. That's not a good sign, you know. That means it might not. Let me see. Because sometimes it does do that, but then it doesn't charge to that. It's just where I've just pulled it back to get the slide on. So give me 2 seconds. Just to make sure that we've certifiedly did what we were trying to do today. So I'm going to take a high Capa. There's nothing in the chamber. You always want to check that first. Chamber's empty. Nothing. Oh, what you see? There is something in that mag, so we're not gonna use. Oh, do you know what? Maybe we will use that, because then I could check if the gun's actually firing as well. So give me 2 secs. I've got a target set up, guys. That's a good sign. I'm not gonna lie to you. If the fault hadn't been fixed, essentially what would have happened is every time the gun charges itself, so I'll show you, every time it does that process there, it would lock back onto the hammer. It's not doing that. So if you notice, even with full, do you know what? I know I'll have some viewers who are like, oh, you're capping, you're this. I want niggas to know, like, bro, I really do this thing, you know. I had to go through bare ups and downs to find a solution to these problems, bro. So I'm gonna max this, you know. This has got max gas in the magazine, yeah. I'm even gonna decharge it so that soy boys know as well. We're gonna recharge that, yeah. So you've seen it's doing that. I'm gonna release it. And that's maximum gas. That's more PSI than my HPA system will kick out. So if more PSI won't lock that back, I know that this is now fixed. So like you guys can see, even sounds pretty nice, to be fair. So there we are. High Capa gun sorted. Now, the biggest, if you want to say problem I've now got, is just to put it back in the kit. Which ain't really a problem, to be fair. It's just annoying finding the right way to put the elastic bands in and all of these things. So I'm gonna leave this video here and just say, look, it's functional. When I put it back together, I'll let you guys know, because it's just better. Like, I can put it back together now. The problem is you want some of the elastic bands in a certain place so it sits within the kit perfectly. So just give me some time. I'm gonna do that in my own time, because I've got a way that how anyone who's seen me at like Future Survival recently or Mayhem, they would have seen. So what I'm doing is just degreasing it, because obviously I chuck bare grease everywhere, right? So I'm trying to take off some of the excessive grease now. But yeah, anyone who's seen me at Future or Mayhem over the last few weeks, they would have seen I would have had the gun, but it had all these elastic bands everywhere. Essentially, the last part of the upgrade I wanted to do to it is, like, I bought these big ass pro elastic bands, and I'm gonna hopefully only use maybe 2 or 3 of them, which will hold the gun in the kit in a certain way. So that's why I'm saying, just give me time. I'll do this in my own time. I just wanted to make sure that, number 1, the new barrel was installed into the gun. Number 2, the hammer clip issue had been resolved. And number 3, what was number 3? That's actually a good point. It was a barrel, hammer. Yeah, and really just look over the gun, because obviously I probably put, since it's been built up in the kit, I probably put like maybe 2k rounds through the gun in firing range scenarios and also in gameplay. So I kind of just wanted to take the gun back down and just check, is everything functional? Is everything all right? Is everything as I set it originally? And yes, it is. Like, I'm quite, where's that mag? I'm quite happy with the way that even sounds. Like, I kind of want to load the mag and take a couple shots now myself, just to be sure. But it sounds like, I'm not even going to lie to you, I think I am going to do that. It sounds pretty nice, and it looks pretty nice. BBs of different weights. Let's have a look. Let me lift up this kit so I'm not doing too much damage. Give us 2 seconds, people. I have to lift the gun out of the camera's view. Or maybe I can do something like that. Then you guys can see. Can you see where I'm shooting? Nah, it's not really gonna work, is it? Do you know what? Maybe I can do this. Maybe that will work, because then you guys can kind of see where I'm shooting. Nah, you can't. Don't worry, guys. I will bring you guys this in when I go to the range. I just want to check quickly what I've done actually works. That hammer is, not that hammer, that trigger is so firm though, you know. Ooh. That's nice though, you know, that's so accurate. Like, it was accurate before. It was accurate before, but I think I'm gonna have to go to the gun range tomorrow, bruv. That is really... Give me 1 sec. I don't want to piss off the neighbours, but I need to see that again, bruv. The other barrel and bucking was accurate, bruv, but that's accurate. Like, that's really accurate. That's scary accurate, like. That's the maddest thing. It's actually scary accurate. Because this might change the game where it's like, it's not even fun to play anymore because it's easy to kill everybody. That's so interesting, and it is doing it, you know. Yeah, I'm gonna have to take this to the range tomorrow, guys, and give you guys an update because that's really accurate. Like, I expected an improvement to the barrel and stuff that I had in there originally, but that's very, very, very big improvement. Like, I expected more like a smaller improvement, but not that I'm complaining. I'm just quite shocked, to be fair. Turn this back for you guys. Like, I'm actually kind of in shock a little bit. So, yeah. High Capa kit gun, function test. And you know what? Because I know, again, some people are going to be like, oh, whatever, it only works on gas. To be fair, gas is more powerful than the PSI that I'm currently running. But I'm going to show you that just so that you soy boys... Like, big up my real people who believe me anyway, innit? But I'm going to do it so you soy boys... So right now, I'm currently running... What's that? That's 40. Now we're gonna be a bit higher than that. What's that? 20, 40, 60. Let's run it about 70. So we're at 70 PSI. Yeah. Now this tank goes up to 300 PSI. This one's massive. This one's a bit crazy. Like, this is more for paintball guns, this regulator. But I use this as my more home testing one because it allows me to test how far I can really push a gun. I'm gonna chuck that in the adapter. Just so you guys can see for function test. You look so good. And I always knew that was going to work just because, like I said, the PSI that gas from a bottle puts out compared to what I've set my tank at is lower. Do you get what I'm saying? The PSI is much higher, sorry, on the tanks, that the gas tanks. So I always knew this function test was going to work, but I'm quite pleased to even just see it because this is how I tend to run the gun, connected to a thing, running on a tank and a regulator. Actually feels pretty nice, I'm not going to lie to you. It feels like, don't get me wrong, the gun felt nice before, but it feels like it's meant to be like that. Whereas I feel like with the older barrel, because what I was doing is I was forcing a cheap barrel system with a decent bucking to deliver. It felt kind of forced at points. Like, now that actually, it feels very stable. Like I said, it feels like it was meant to be like that. So, yeah. And I will say, Novorich, when you guys fail, I know I do talk about it a lot on these videos, like the long shipping times and customs holding my products for weeks on end and shit like that. But I'll give you, this is one time you guys have got it right. I think I ordered on the Friday and it is now the Wednesday and I've got my stuff. And for me, that's good because everything I've normally bought from Novorich takes normally like 3 weeks to come. 4 weeks. I've had times, even when I first bought the SSP2, that gun took me a month to get, which I didn't really, because I bought it for my, like, originally I bought it for, I was buying it for like content sake. It's like there was a video I needed to shoot around a certain time period. So it was me trying to say, oh, this is the only weapon that will achieve that style of video that I wanted. But yeah, it just didn't work out that way. The gun took a month to get to me. So by the time it got to me, it's like I didn't even need the gun for that video in the end. Oh, did I rip it off? Is it broken? Is it broken? It looks like it's getting broken, but it's not quite broken. I'm gonna have to glue it because I do like my little things on the keyring. What am I doing? I need to somehow get this through the nozzle off that, but my fingers ain't long enough, geezer. Never say never though, because I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna see if I can try and put the gun together for you guys on the thing. I know there's so much people gonna be like, oh, why didn't you just put it together for us? So let me see if I can do that for you guys. Because what, like I said, nobody's ever done this. So it's like all the things you see me going through, it's because I'm having to find fixes for things that companies haven't found fixes for. This is all, even the 3D print kit, like this is something I found online. We paid for the file. I sent it to my 3D printer guy. Everything is a concept, literally. So I had to find parts to accommodate everything that I'm trying to do here. And like, I wanted it to be, sometimes I've had, like in the past, I've built kits and they look the part and they're nice for maybe range use, but they just haven't performed very well at a game. Whereas this gun, I'm not gonna lie to you, this setup here, it's so amazing. Like you'll see it on the future survival footage that comes out, the footage from December and maybe November. I've used this gun twice there, and both days the gun performed so well, like so well. It's why I'm putting a bit more time and effort into it now, just to sort the problems I found that day. You know what I'm saying? I do want that wire out the way though, so we'll figure out where we're putting that. You see what I'm saying? You want the gun in the kit stable, but I've got a solution to that, so give me 2 seconds. Just want the wire out the way. That's not, that is gonna bother me though, because yeah, that's better. Hopefully, is it short? No, it's not short. It's lovely. Do you know what? That feels actually alright. As long as I don't pull the gun up too much, jiggle it up too much. It actually feels alright like that, but I'm gonna want the gun a little more stable in here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab one of these elastic bands. And what I did last time was I ran a band from this up to here. It was a bit annoying because at points I had to really stretch it, then straighten it out and shit, but it worked in the end. So we're gonna run that over here. Flip that around so it's straight. It would have been nice if I could send it over one more time, but just so I can see how that looks, we're gonna just wrap it around there. So it does feel quite stable. The problem is I want something to line it. You guys might be like, I wish you cut this part of the video, but again, now you guys see that kit guns aren't for the faint-hearted, because you literally got to find a way to make something that's never been done actually work for you and work pretty well. Work so well that you prefer it over something that's already on the market, which is where I'm kind of at with this gun. It's just this fiddly bit right here, trying to get it to all hold together, because obviously you don't want to hold onto the gun that's like a gun that's not secure onto the system it's part of. But that feels all right, you know. Doesn't look too bad as well. It doesn't look too intruding. And then what I normally do is I'll dash one more on. And this one normally is what secures the rest of the gun to the body backwards. But this one, I'm so in 2 minds about it, because you don't want something that hinders your beaver tail. And you don't want something that hinders your grip of the gun as well. So something like that, for example. So let me just see. Because maybe if I bring this a bit higher, run it across like this, I might just get away with it. But you want it to be a bit firm. So I might even run it twice. But that feels alright, you know. There's a little movement, so I can correct things. That actually feels alright. I think that's alright, because if you look, it doesn't look too intruding. And it kind of looks like it's meant to be like that as well. Give me one sec. Let me just see that the gun fires now like that. And you know what, let me loosen that, because what you don't want to do is while you're dropping a mag, keep tugging at your wire and then cause a short. So maybe if the wire was at the bottom of the safety, then that was tight, it wouldn't intrude so much maybe. Yeah, that's all right. What I don't want to do is create a short in the wire myself. And you know what, there's a little part of me that's still like, nah. Move the wire again. Yeah, because you see there's other places the wire can go that's not too intruding. So you see, I have access to my safety and the wire's not too much in the way. Do you get it? Kind of want to drop this a little bit as well though, you know, because if I click too high, it doesn't do anything. But if I pull it too far down, it's going to intrude with the mag wheel, so now I leave it because that's center and it works. All right, cool. So it looks like I found it. Like, if you notice, the gun is stable. Like, I'll hold that. It's firm. It's actually holding the gun in place nicely. And then what I tend to then do is I'll chuck my tracer over the end, which if you screw it enough in, what it tends to do is it adds like a firm grip to the outside of the frame on both sides. So I'm gonna do that quick and show you guys. And then essentially we have done the kit gun. Took us an hour and a half, but it's done. So essentially we have a finished kit gun. I'm not gonna lie, she actually looks peng. Even with the elastic bands, I kind of like it because it gives her like a realistic feel. It looks like it's something that is meant to be like that. Do you get what I'm saying? It's quite cool. So yeah, I think that's the kit gun 101, guys. It actually looks and it's firm. Let me just run a mag to make sure that that tracer unit isn't too tight, and then we should be good to go. I know some people ask me about how do you charge the gun. I've just charged the gun while the gun's in the kit, and you notice it's functioning fine. Let me just tighten that a little more because there's a bit too much movement for my likings. Give me 2 secs. I want that over that so there's no movement at all. It's like it's secure. You don't want to send 1,000 shots down there and then bits are flying off the gun. The key here is securing everything that's on the gun. So from my flashlight to the gun inside the kit to even things like this connected to the rails, you want everything secure. So the gun is firm, like it's firm. That's something I like about this gun. Pokemon, his head fell off. Imagine, his head fell off his body. That's funny, my Power Ranger's head fell off his body. Imagine, I'm gonna have to glue him back. It goes back in there, but I don't want that to happen again, so I'm gonna have to glue him in there. And then I know he'll be able to take some more beat up. So it looks like there was one thinner screw that was holding it in. That's all that was holding it in place. So yeah, I'm gonna glue that back together in a sec. And yeah, guys, we have a kit gun. Like, I literally just wanna, I think I'm just gonna fill a mag of tracer bullets and do it that way, and then we should be good to go. Like, if I'm to be honest, even this, I like the tilt, because then the BBs will fly up as opposed to go in and smash my lens. Because I've lost 3 or 4 of these lenses, and a little while ago I was looking like, oh, is that too at an angle? But I like the concept, because what will happen is, like I said, it will hit the lens and just slide past. So yeah, what I would do, just so that we can end this video knowing that everything is essentially done, fill some tracer BBs in there. And actually lock that door as well, because the echo is quite bad in the house at the moment. like I said, the body, I'm gonna have to glue him in, but I'll do that literally. Let me grab the glue so I'm not just chatting and I don't forget. Do you know, I've got some super glue, so I think I'm gonna use that instead, because then I know there's absolutely no way that his head will fall off, if that makes sense. So where's this super glue at? There we are. But yeah, if you've made it this far, I want to say big yourself up first and foremost, because that means you're a real one. Click like, click share, and help somebody else out, because I once was in your position, which is why I'm doing this video. What am I doing? Let me just glue my Pokemon character, not Pokemon, my Power Ranger back together quick. But yeah, I was once in you guys' position, which is why I even thought about doing this video, because I go to different sites and people are always like, oh, how the hell did you do that? Oh, that looks sick. Oh, this, that, and that. And like, they're often asking me questions that affect me playing my game time, like using my game time to play games, because I'm now doing things for people. So any ideas like this that you've seen that you're like, oh, I would love to see a video on that, just let a brother know and I will try and... where is the bottle cap for it now, man? Yeah, I will try and do a video for you to do that specific thing you're asking about, just to help you guys understand how to do what I've done, essentially. So yeah, not to sound brazy, like I don't like people coming up to me. It's nice, but often I wait all week to play. So as nice as it is to be chatting and having to do things to them, I want to play. That's why I'm there, innit? So if I can find out what you guys want me to actually do videos on, it means that rather than me shooting a bunch of videos that you guys don't actually want to see, it means I can actually use the time to film videos that you guys genuinely do want to see. So that's the concept around that. But without further ado, and you know, I should shoot this gun, but for some reason, guys, okay, there it is. Thought I lost the top of the super glue, and the one thing about that is I would end up losing a whole tab of super glue for no good reason. But yeah, let me switch this tracer on. I don't like the way that magwell is moving as well, you know. Maybe that needs a little bit of glue. Yeah, like it's moving a bit too much for my liking, so I'm gonna glue that. Some people might not agree with super glue and these things, but because like I said, this kit gun is about trying things and seeing what works. It's why there's a lot of bits that, well, I say a lot of bits, there's only a few bits that I've glued. And I've done that just because until we can find the correct bolt for that specific bit, it would be stupid to leave it loose, because every time we use the gun, it's likely to break off or snap off, or do you get what I'm trying to say? So part of the concept around, like, for example, right now I'm gluing a magwell into my magwell area. Some people might not agree with that. They might be like, oh, you fucked yourself because now you're stuck with that magwell forever. It's like, well, that was the point. The whole point of this gun is to switch bits out, test it, use the gun and try and work out what works for it. So this magwell, I'm not lying to you, like up until now I've had no issues with it. And why I like this magwell is because it's so massive. There's no way that you're gonna fling a mag into it and miss it. Do you get what I'm saying? There's no way you could do this with your eyes closed, then you're not doing it. Like, I'll close my eyes now and I'll show you, because you can feel the magwell. It's so easy, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I did that. And often I use this gun CQB indoors in the dark, so it's nice to be able to take an extended mag, pull out my mag out of a mag pouch or whatever, and just feel around. Boom, it's in one time. I'm good to go. Charge and we're good to go. So yeah, and she looks pretty, man. She actually does look the part, like, you know what I'm saying? She reminds me, like, I remember when I first came into the game, I was trying to buy a GTP9 from G&G, and I was trying to buy the SMC9 kit, because hand in hand they essentially make something like this, like a pistol size carbine kit that can shoot rifle length. I've managed to build something shorter than that, lighter than that, and we'll see if it's more durable. That's something I'll have to test, because we're now in December 2024 I plan to run this gun for the foreseeable future of my airsoft career. We'll see how we get on. And in theory, I reckon I'll be fine. It's why I chose the parts I chose. Titan7 on the Voss is flawless. I've had 2 of those guns and I beat them up over years and years. Well, I say years and years. I beat them up over the course of a year and a half, and I never had no issues. Anything that broke, I was able to fix. And to be honest, they were foolproof. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I think those are the only pistols I bought out this year that they've never broke at a game and I wasn't able to fix them at the game. Like, I've had every other gun that's broke at a game and I weren't able to fix it, like Glocks, you name it. Like, so the Titan7s, I had to use that as an upper, and even the fact that it only has a half slide as opposed to a full slide moving, it's almost like having a half cut pistol because you get that speed and transition in between the BBs. I used a Novrich lower because they're just good. Like, one thing I like about Novrich is they sell you good quality parts. So everything on the lower, from the safety mechanism to the hammer to the trigger, like when I squeeze this gun, the trigger pull is so hard you actually feel like you're firing a real gun. Do you get what I'm saying? So love that. That's the realistic feel I wanted to go for because it's in a rifle style kit. I've got the grip just to give me that rifle feel. I got the thumb rest again, making the, like, because it has no stock in it, so I needed a way to make this gun comfortable to hold. So between those 2, it just seats so well. I wanted the red dot for accuracy. I wanted a way to connect this to my body gear. I've now got that at the back. Yeah, like, it's just it's a gun that's built for purpose. I've got no bad things to say about the gun currently, apart from the things that I had to fix along the journey. And I feel like we're now at a stage where this rifle / pistol is done. So yeah, I'll probably give it another 45 minutes, let all that gluing stuff dry. I'm gonna test this tracer mag right now just to make sure it functions lovely. And I don't think I will trouble this gun again until I go to the range tomorrow, because switch on that red dot. I want to do this while you guys are on so we can actually see, like, did we achieve it, guys? Hopefully we did. And I think this, I'm gonna move. No, we want it to hold on to that because that we're trying to secure into the kit, the actual gun. Yeah, you see, because now the gun feels like I can hold the gun by itself. But yeah, so you guys can't see what I'm seeing, but I just want to do a quick little aim test and see how we get on, see if it will cycle all of them, and that's that. Perfect, it went exactly, look at that. Hopefully you guys can see it before it runs out. If you look, can you see it? Yes, you can. In the center of this target right there, there's a little white thing glowing. I was able to bullseye. I'm gonna have to show you guys after this video is done. But I was able to bullseye with the tracer, and yeah, it shot exactly where my red dot went. So I'm quite pleased with that, to be fair. Keep in mind, this target is probably like 5, what's that, 1, 2, 3, maybe 3.5, call it 4 meters away from me. So I expect that. It's an upgrade barrel, so I said I'm gonna take it to the range. Ooh, what happened there? Do you know the interesting thing though? Because the gun beats so hard and that trigger is so firm, it's like sometimes you're squeezing thinking there's a fault, but it's because you haven't squeezed the trigger hard enough. But I'm not going to change that. Like, I can remove the trigger, but I'm like, I like that. Like, it really makes me feel like I'm holding a real rifle. Like, kind of makes me feel like I could take this gun outdoors, because this kind of has the outdoors ability of what I was originally trying to build with the Glock. If you guys remember in the early days on the channel when I had the Glock inside of a kit, this is essentially it. Like, this is the finished mod of what I was trying to build. Interestingly, I had to build it myself because I bought that one from a company. I think it was from a company called CAA, but this is one of our lads 3D printed this. I just chucked him some money and was like, there's the file, pay for it, print the stuff for me, boom. Yeah, the only thing is I don't know what's going on there, like every 2 or 3 shots, the BB is just rolling out. Okay, maybe it's just me. Because to be fair, I did use some cheap BBs in that load right there, so it might be the cheapest BBs. Let me just test this extended mag, because normally when I showcase the gun to people, that's what I normally use with this kit gun. That's what this extended mag is actually for. It's for my kit gun. Oh, do you know what? I just had an idea. If Prezi gives me his small mag, he can have this extended mag. Because he has a brand new mag. That's actually a good point. This is in good nick, and he needs the BB capacity. Trying to look after Prezi, because he's just joined Airsoft, people. And for those of you who are like, who the hell is Prezi? Prezi's my little brother. Have you done? I'm starting to feel like this gun is breaking the short stroke, you know. Oh, do you know what it might be? It might be because it's too tight within the kit, or maybe it's not too tight in the kit. Yeah, do you see it's locked back? So maybe it is because it's too tight in the kit. Yeah, because that's not a hammer. Just trying to make sure it's foolproof, peeps. Give me 2 seconds. Interestingly, it's still doing that hammer thing. Okay, now it's not. I'm saying it's so weird. Let me just load a couple more in. I just want to make sure it's not actually doing that. That's the one thing I hate with the way high Capas and 1911s, the systems are built. Because you've got to dash that pin up the top, it's like you can't really max your pullback the way, like, I hope you understand what I'm saying. You can't max the pullback the way you want to max it. You've kind of got to leave a gap there. Yeah, we're fine. Okay, cool. I was just trying to make sure. I think it was me where I was pulling the gun back and I had the upper on so tight. It's like the gun needs still the ability to move. So in theory, this tracer could go on another gun. You know what? Interestingly, I could put another tracer on this gun, you know. Because it means that it doesn't need to touch the body, like I said earlier. It would be better if it was free floating, because then there's no hindrance on the barrel. Because the hindrance on the barrel that's causing that to happen. That's crazy. But yeah, guys, we have now got a high Capa kit fully working. Like you can see. Lovely, and the safety works. You know what I'm saying? So that is my high Capa in a kit gun. My custom high Capa in a kit gun. Thanks for sticking with me. Like I said, if you made it this far, like, share, subscribe, and I absolutely love you because you basically spent nearly 2 hours with me. Until the next one, peeps.